that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice? Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
You could say that.
I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he's expecting to wake up.
Everybody, welcome. Once again, yet again, we resume. It is Team Rabbit Hole Edition 297 with Louisa Firethorne, Goodest Vibrations. Musician, inventor, entrepreneur, and healer. Join the team as we get to know Louisa, a West Coast engineer who has studied and harnessed the magic of reality and created the Sonosphere, a haptic sound therapy device designed to heal through frequency vibration. Well, beam us all up, Scotty. Welcome, Louisa.
Hi, thank you for having me.
What? For sure. That was an interesting little barb. Rafa, I know we've been MIA, so sorry to anybody who's been paying attention. Louisa, something we do here on the podcast is take the number of the episode, in this case it's 297, and I reduce it down numerologically, so 2 plus 7 is 9, 9 plus 9 is 18, which turns into 9, which in the major arcana is the Hermit card. But in this deck, surprisingly, David DeAngelis, he's been on the podcast, shout out, is the Alien, but of fucking course. So the Alien says, I bring back knowledge from distant places. The Alien, know your worth. You are perfect the way you are. Be free. Seek answers within yourself. Go deeper and understand more of the universe. Take the time to do something you have never done before. So, Raphael, what do you got?
So for you, we got the... Oh, how nice. The Nine of Swords. I'm not sure, are you into tarot at all? Many people with these cards are like, oh my god, it's such a bad card. I never see it that way. Even though here it says despair, anguish, suffering, death, failure, miscarriage, delay, deception, disappointment, despair. However, this is, referring to the mental processes and within the cycles. So again, I don't know how much you're into tarot or not. In the numerology, 1 to 9, 9 is the completion. And to me, this is always a great sign because anyhow, mental concepts are built up and eventually, discarded, right? So seen from that point of view, this is the, maybe if I were to do how they call it, armchair tarot guy interpretation, I would say that maybe you're right about now at the completion of some kind of mental cycle or some kind of belief system structure or something like that. That's just now, has completed, and the astrological associations, or how should I say, zodiacal associations, are actually Mars and Gemini. Yeah, so here we go.
Correct. So between, and I know just astrologically for everybody right now, since we've talked, Raphael, Pluto has entered Aquarius, which is about change and transformation at deep, deep alchemical levels. So I'm sure you're feeling it as an Aquarius lately. A big energy shift in the past probably couple weeks. Between those cards, though, the Alien card, i.e. the Hermit card, and the Nine of Swords, Louisa, does anything pop, resonate? And I did hear you, by the way, right before we went live, you saying it was 111 your time. So I heard you.
Yeah, that was cool. 111 is my
no.
number. Yeah, I love a numerology, especially. And yes, the suit of swords is my suit. That is I associate with myself because of I'm an air sign, and also the mental pointedness of my character. Yeah, it goes with that.
I apologize for my internet. Jesus Christ. Seems like we're going to have one of those days. I heard the word pointedness. Can you repeat yourself, or are we both having technical difficulties, Raphael?
It just goes with the point. the mental. I'm an air sign. Being a
That's what's up. So, yeah, like I was saying, I know that you're dealing with a lot of Aquarius energy. I was looking at your chart. You're a Sun Aquarius, Mercury Aquarius, Libra Moon, stuff like that, which might not mean anything to you, but you've got a lot of alien energy. So the fact that the alien card and kind of what you're up to with the Sonosphere and the when I say alien, that might make people think, aliens, but to me, like Nikola Tesla or David Bowie doing Ziggy Stardust, I mean, that kind of like weird freak kind of channeling energies into
yeah.
practical applications is kind of what also I think. So, Louisa, you can be as long-winded or as short-winded, and we'll kind of go around your childhood or whatever. But tell us what culture were you growing up in? Have you always been into tech? I know you're a musician. I think I saw an image of you playing the harp. I'm a guitarist, so I kind of get that. Yeah, just kind of give us a
Mhm.
101 on where thou art coming from.
Well, growing up, my dad was a antique radio collector and electrical engineer, and he's always fixing people's broken stuff, like TVs, VCRs, radios, and those were his main things. There was always like 3 radios, 2 TVs on at once my whole childhood, which was a lot of like sensory stimulation. And he also had a business building satellite dishes. So
What the
he
fuck?
those huge satellites that they had in the 80s if you were rich and had cable, TV, or it was satellite, and it was this huge aluminum thing, and there was literally like this little transmitter receiver box in your house that you would type in a different galaxy, and it would turn the satellite to face a literal different galaxy in space, to receive the TV channels. And um, I was one of the first kids with satellite in the 80s, and it was a crazy upbringing of tech. And I just remember my dad always being like on the forefront of tech, like my whole life, like whatever was the newest, coolest thing. And then
Cutting edge. It sounds a little like Crackatus Pop
yeah,
from
and then
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
yeah, he's something else. And I also watched him build 2 houses, a boat, do stained glass windows. There's literally nothing that he couldn't build or make or do. And so naturally, I grew up thinking there was nothing that I couldn't make or build or do. That was just sort of built into my upbringing, was like, yeah, anything that's humanly possible is possible for me. And that kind of was just like the background of how I felt about everything. And then yeah, I've always been interested in music, and I've learned a lot of instruments. Probably dabbled a lot more instruments than I've actually learned, but I did spend about 10 years on the clarinet and in symphony, band, pep band, jazz band, and I also fronted a funk band for 5 years as a singer. And I've put out albums with my bands, and
I had
my
no
husband.
clue. I'm like,
Yeah,
what? This is crazy. All right. Let's
yeah,
rewind. Okay, well, I'll get up to your husband and the present day stuff. So let's go back to your dad just for a second. So, are you
yeah.
the like only child or a sibling?
No, I have many siblings.
I mean, you say that like
I
it's a litter of them. Like you don't even want to say the number, like 13 or something
Well,
crazy.
I was raised with 2 sisters,
Okay.
and, later I actually have a brother and another sister now, half siblings as well. So I have 4, um, siblings total, but I was raised as the eldest. So I was the eldest of 3 girls, and, I live in a rural area in a town with, like, 1,000 people in it, and, I also am situated on the Swinomish Reservation in, La Conner, Washington, and I'm back where I was born and raised. This is, the area that I grew up in, and I'm back here. I have 2 children, um, Kelty and Erwin, that are,
Oh, I like the
uh
names. Arrowin, I get it. Kelty is like that Celtic kind of vibes, or
yeah,
I
yeah,
gotcha.
Kelty and
Okay, so well, was your upbringing political or religious or at all? I mean, it sounds like he was at least technically savvy, so I would imagine he's more scientifically minded.
yeah,
But
they they were pretty secular, my parents, and they were very much about freedom of thought. That was the most important thing. Anytime I would try to be like, no, just give me a set of, I would almost want them to tell me what they thought and how the world worked. And they were basically like, no one knows the answer to these things. Don't ever think anyone actually does. And you have to just find out for yourself, and only you can find the answer for you. And that was like, they were always pointing back to me, like, you tell us what the future is. You tell us what we should be studying. Like, you're the next generation. We only represent what's fading away. So like you inform us,
Very fair. I mean, sometimes people are traumatized. I mean, I was raised, Christian. I still deal with that ontologically because I'm like so patterned into that. So I'm like having to weigh that. In a sense, you were. I mean, there can be good or bad to this, but it's like you were left to do a humanist kind of perspective where it's like, I mean, science is all about like fuck around and find out, and that's pretty much what they told you to do.
Yeah, and my mom later got into Buddhism and
Oh,
meditation. And I picked up some wisdom from her, her teaching me things that she resonated with. And there was also I went through like a really occult phase of like occultism and new age.
I'm
And I
still there.
actually started developing the Sonosphere when I was in my new age exploration. Because I honestly think new age is one of the best, it's one of the best philosophies for creating new ideas. And I think, new agers like channel the new ideas, and then like scientists do them,
Ground
but
them.
it's like
Yeah.
ground them in reality. Yeah. And I've always felt like an ambassador between the two, on, the two ways of knowing, the intuitive way of knowing, and then the, objective way of knowing, of repeating, experiments.
Repeatability.
Um,
I'm just looking at your chart
yeah,
really quickly. You do have Jupiter and Scorpio, which is like where you expand is into like mysterious kind of occultism. It's not, you're always going to be interested, maybe not pursuing it consciously, but like you're psychic, more psychic than you realize. You definitely channel ideas as an Aquarius, Sun and Mercury. I mean, you're tapped into the fucking holodeck on Star Trek or whatever.
I am. I thought I was psychic when I was in my 20s, and I told everyone I was, and I charged for sessions and all this stuff, and I channeled really openly in public, and like I'm just a lot more like private now, and I'm starting to realize too that maybe what I thought was psychic was actually just my like extreme pattern recognition,
Oh yeah.
As someone who's neurodivergent and just sees more deeply into the dimensionality of
All.
everything.
Yeah, I
Of,
get it.
of,
It's almost
and I,
semantics at some level, though. Straight up. I mean, when people are like, "Oh my gosh, they have multiple personality disorder or something," it's like maybe they're tapping into timelines. Who knows? I'm not
yeah,
saying there aren't crazy people, but it's ironic. Right before we watched this, I watched a Grant Morrison video. He's a comic book author. He did the Invisibles and some other stuff. I think some X-Men stuff. And it was about sigil magic and occult, kind of chaos magic. I'll send it to you after all this because it might rekindle something for you. It's very psychedelic in its own way. All right, so your parents were kind of coming from more or less like a Voltairean neutral Tesla mode, where they're just like, figure it out, don't ask us, believe nothing. X-Files mode, basically. It's like trust
well,
nothing,
no, trust.
uh,
Well, yeah, my mom
trust
just taught me
yourself.
to trust myself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and my
And
connection with spirit.
I would
No
say, okay,
metal.
so she said spirit. Yeah, I was gonna say it's. We don't have to go too far into this because I'm just rambling now. But Buddhism
Yeah,
tends to be more of a philosophy. It's not. I mean, it's atheistic in nature typically, unless you get into certain flavors of Buddhism. Um,
we're, I was definitely raised with God, but not in a religious way. So
yeah.
that's interesting. And then my dad really, inspired me to my initiations as a teenager were with psychedelics,
Oh yeah.
and that activated everything I needed to understand as far as I'm concerned. And my mom had spent her whole life, and my grandma had spent her whole life sort of distancing from religion. And so I had two generations before me that did that work of releasing that fear and judgment and control, so that I could have a neutral starting point. And that's, their sacrifice completely made it so that I could be me at this timeline. Um, and we are all evolving at our own rate, but I'm just really grateful for that, because that's a huge job in someone's lifetime, is to, get back to your own source and trust yourself, instead of religion and religious books, and the fear that it was ingrained into you as a young person and grown into you. That is so hard to uproot that. And to anyone doing that work, I commend you.
Your Libra moon says, "Thank you for balancing the scales." I feel it. So, all right. So, like in high school, were you like, I'm a geek and I play video games? Like, where were you always into kind of nerding out and teching out and tinkering and stuff, or not so much?
Always art and drawing in class, and drawing sketches, imagining, visioning, and making music videos was in my pastime, with my family, is like giant as fuck camera, like, one of those big, like, weighs 50 pounds video cameras. Like, we had one because my dad had some stuff, and I was my favorite thing to go out in the woods and make music, Smashing Pumpkins music videos with my girlfriends, or like we'd do like garbage. We'd get our, faces all make-upped out, and like go in the woods and do like, music videos. And so I was very much into, if there had been TikTok when I was in
You
high
were a
school,
rising star.
it would be over for me. I would be famous already. 'Cause I was
What's
really,
weird though is, in a sense, you don't want fame. You just want the information out there and then to like capitalize on it in some sense. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but it's like with Jupiter and Scorpio, I think you probably like being a wallflower more than not. So I'm actually glad you came on here, for the record.
yeah, I mean, I'm super, I try to keep it myself, and I've opened myself up to the public completely doing this
Mm,
work. And I tried to stay out of it for a long time, intentionally. So it's been really weird kind of coming out of my hermit hole.
yeah.
Especially COVID, and becoming a mom during COVID, that was insane. And I definitely had to, like, I was holed up seriously. Um, but with the Sonosphere launching and opening to the public, I've had to, like, make my profile public, be there to answer questions, be there to stomach haters, and there's been a lot of love too, and there's also been a lot of crazies projecting stuff on me, and projecting stuff onto the Sonosphere that I never said it did, that I never claimed it did. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. Um, so I'm glad
We'll
I'm
get into clarifying. I'm glad. Geez, I didn't realize you
cleared
had
up.
kids during COVID. So we'll get to 2020 eventually. So let's say we're in 93 to 5 right now. You're rocking out to fucking Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness in the woods with a video, like,
Yeah,
a Beta Max VHS or whatever the fuck. Um,
yes,
so
exactly.
because I'm 38, so I still listen to fucking Smashing Pumpkins and Bush, and I mean, the 90s were the best. Straight up, they really were one of the
Yeah,
best times.
sure.
But then I guess I'm biased, as are you.
So I did this program called Running Start, and I ended up graduating from high school and college with a 2-year degree on the same day.
Fuck yeah.
And and I was the first one from my school to do all of the requirements for both, and like fully graduate with all the honors for in both. And I thought I was hot shit, honestly, until I went to the 4-year college the very next, 2 months later, to get, because I had a transfer degree coming out of high school, and they're like, "Okay, so what's your major?" And I'm like, I don't know. Don't I get to
World
pick
is a
that?"
vampire. No kidding. It's
I was
like,
like, "Do I get to pick that now? I mean, I'm at 4-year college now. Do I get to pick that?" They're like, no. See, you should have picked your major, like, before you took any college classes, because now you don't have the correct prerequisites to do any major."
fuck the system
And
sometimes, for real. Like,
I
that's
was
lame.
like, "What?" I was, like, completely freaking out, because I'd gone to 3 departments: the science department, the art department, science specifically, engineering,
Mm.
and the music department, and the art department, all of which I had very good portfolio in all of those. And they were like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter what your portfolio is, you just have to have these classes, and you don't have them, so go back and then do them and come back when you have," or whatever. And I just was like, I'd spent 2 years already doing all kinds of stuff, math classes, science, but nothing focused enough to get into any one department. So I felt like I was totally screwed. Um, and that's when I found out that there was this build your own degree college right there at that very same university, that was called Fairhaven College, and it
Sounds
was
like it was
made
a
fun of.
fair haven for you. It's like,
I
hey,
mean,
fuck
it
y'all,
was
I need
definitely
this.
it was definitely made fun of as like the hippie alternative college or whatever. You get a liberal arts degree that is called an integrated degree, right? But it really was the best choice for someone like me because I could not choose anyway between those departments. Like the idea of giving my whole life over to either engineering or art or music was like ridiculous. I was like, I am so into all of those. To just choose one would be
Pick a child.
not me.
All the others die. I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
Exactly. So I was like, I have to integrate. So I went to this college, and for another 2.5 years, they have you write and write and write until you hate it so much about why are you here? What is your mission? What do you like? What are you gonna do with your time on Earth? How do you want to make an impact? I mean, and they make you
Sounds very
tear apart
mindful.
they make you tear apart your ideas. You might change your focus like 6 times once you find out everything about the thing you thought you wanted to do. It's very humbling. Um, and I got to the point where, at the end, they're like, okay, now you have to actually create a project, something that represents this integration in the world.
Hmm.
And it can be a thing, it can be a service, it can be an event, but you have to create something. And I was just totally freaking out up to the deadline. Like, what do I do? What do I make? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I got, of course, at like a couple days before it was due to say what your idea is, I had a dream.
A
And it
vision.
was a vision and a dream. And it was, I was legit asleep taking a nap, and I had a dream of somebody sitting in the middle of this um sphere in outer space. It was here, they were floating in outer space, and they were the person was Jack Black, which I thought was hilarious because I don't know why my brain
Of
chose
the white
Jack Black, but
stripes?
no, that's Jack White.
Oh my God. See, okay, God, I was like, wait, what? Who's Jack Black?
Yeah,
Oh, no,
Jack
no, the
Black, like
comedian. The comedian.
comedian, yeah.
Okay.
It was funny. And he had this crystal that he was singing into like it was a microphone. And he goes, I got a transducer, baby, or just something. He was like ad-libbing about a transducer or something. And I had just heard this times in my life. I didn't really even know what it meant. I just knew it was like a component that my dad used in his radios. Anyway, in my dream, he was inside this spinning sphere, and there were like all these speakers in the room, like pointed at him, all focused in on him in this spinning sphere of like light or something. I don't know. But I just saw all the speakers like surrounding every single inch of everything. So I went to my dad, of course, who's an engineer, an electrical engineer, and I said, hey, is it possible for there to be any kind of mechanism where a person can be stationary, inside something that's spinning, a sphere that's spinning around them? So that includes like below them too. Like,
360. Yeah.
would that ever be possible? Or am I just dreaming literally? And he's like, well, actually, if you used the base from my satellite dish design, that's got like this pole going down the middle. If you have everything on this pole, then you can, strap things to the pole and then have, something on the outside that is moving. And I'm like, cool. So can you help me build that then? Because I need it.
Jamaica,
Like,
we're gonna have a bobsled team. I mean, basically, you kicked into gear. Okay, dude, that's
yeah,
crazy. I mean, it's good
I
that
need
it's a
it.
dream. That's nuts.
I needed it for my project. It's like I needed a physical thing to turn in. So I just gave my dad like a napkin drawing of like king, and then he added to the
You're the
napkin drawing.
specs. Try to do this.
Yeah, and we literally just sat at the table and like worked on this little napkin drawing until we had something that looked feasible. And my dad only welded for like functional reasons. He's not really a welder, but he like made himself a welder in order to help me. So it was really touching.
Yeah,
um,
love.
and the wires were 220. It was an old ass welder, and it just took 220 only, and it didn't even have a plug. It was just these two bare wires, and he just like stuck them in the 220 outlet, and he was like, "Don't ever do that without me here."
Sage advice. You don't want to become a fried, crispy girl.
Yeah.
It's just a couple things. Are you into Jack Black? Now that I'm thinking about who he is, because he's a comedian. He does psychedelics, all that stuff. I mean, he's
Yeah, I think he's funny. I like his movies, definitely. I was really into Tenacious D as a
okay.
as
So
a
yeah, you know
teenager.
about the egg, or he's like, my essence can't be labeled. Like it made me think of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So maybe you're tapping
and
into that level.
maybe,
And
but
then
I also think it had to be something casual enough. Like I think my brain chose him parts. Um,
sure. It's like, why is there
yeah,
an
because then
arachnid being telling me things or whatever it would have could have been? Like weird.
yeah,
It was like a Valentine's Day kind of box, chocolate box, candied or whatever. It's like, here, you can handle
yeah.
this.
Well, like in Contact when Jodie
hmm
Foster
hmm
gets to the other dimension and the alien appears as her dad
The
because
vegans.
the vegans, yeah, because he would feel the most comfortable with her dad. So they took his form to talk to her. So they will the I kind of feel like that was a one of those.
I hear you
Um,
on that. It seems like the information was high, high frequency or whatever. It gets broken down and then it just has to have kind of a clown face so the kid doesn't freak out. Or you know what I mean? It's like it's an approachable
yeah,
object or whatever.
exactly. And it was
Um
also interesting because at the time I was like smoking a lot of weed too, and I wasn't even having dreams. So the
mhm.
fact that I had that dream was actually kind of a miracle in and
It
of
pushed
itself.
through. It pushed through the
Yeah.
whole dopaminergic symphony of stuff. It's funny. I just quit smoking recently, and that's one of the things I treasure about being sober is clarity of thought at that level and dreams mostly. It's like, and actually, I made a post about it like a week or two ago or whatever, and people are like, I dream, blah blah blah, fuck you, and I'm like, I can't. I'm not telling y'all how to live. All I know is like, I feel good
Good for
stoned, but I nub out my
you.
intuition so hard that it's like it's kind of a catch 22.
Yeah.
Um, two kind of things, and then we can keep kind of talking about your story. My grandfather worked at Texas Instruments, and he actually he was an electrical engineer. He patented the black strip on the back of like Visa cards and shit. So it's funny
Oh,
how,
wow.
well, it's in a sense whatever. But my point is, it's funny to see how people, because I didn't know him for shit. He died young. But it's funny to see how normal people can change the world just with like ideas. It really is that. So I mean, we tend to think, I've got to be rich or I've got to have all these. You know what I mean? Like all you were doing was really kind of mingling with your folk, i.e., your family and stuff, doing what you preferred, following your highest excitement, as Raphael might put it, in a Basharian sense.
Yeah.
And basically, the dream comes through. So, have you had many other kinds of dreams like that? I know there's a guy named Dr. Nakamatsu. Dr. Nakamatsu, I think, is a Japanese inventor, and he's got like 10,000 patents or something crazy. It's insane. And what he does is, this
Oh,
is so random. Sorry,
have a lot
he
must have a lot
blacks
of money.
out in the pool, and right before he's like black, he holds his breath as long as he can, and then like it's almost like DMT naturally secretes. So he starts getting all these like visions of what to make, and then he kind of comes up. And he's like, "Oh, an underwater pencil that will work," or whatever he invents. Anyway, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but it was that like the one and done for you with the I mean, hopefully not, but it's like that.
Well,
Go ahead.
no, that was just the beginning to like get the concept kick-started. And then, I ended up building the first prototype for the senior project, and
What year
that
was
ended
this?
up getting this was 2002.
All right, so
And
9/11
just
era. We're going to war in
yeah,
Iraq, and you're building a sonosphere.
yeah, and when I was doing this, like literally nobody understood like the stuff I was trying to talk about, like sacred geometry, geometry of spatial, um, like understanding the geometry of space itself
Hmm.
and resonant spaces, especially acoustic spaces. I studied all of that as part of my integrated degree. I did 2 years of audio recording. I did the physics of sound. And I did a lot of self-directed art and science with my dad too. I actually got my dad to teach me electronics, as part of my degree, and I got credit for that. So that was really cool. But,
That is very cool,
ultimately
actually.
what was that?
That is very cool, actually, that your dad could just be like, "Hey, let's just go to the garage and fuck around," and you got credit for it.
Yeah, we built like a guitar amp and everything.
What?
Um, so my degree ended up being entitled because we had to create a title for our degree, which mine was called Transducing Human Consciousness Through Art, Science, and Music. It was the longest one of anybody's, and I felt really insecure about the fact
No,
that
it's
my title
distinct as fuck. Just think about what it says. It says exactly what it needs to, so don't feel
and
bad.
that title underwent like 40 revisions with like all of my professors and me, like understanding like who I am and what the hell I'm here to do into like a sentence. Your whole mission on earth like refined into a sentence. You know, a label. So that was so hard. It took so many adults like guiding me and helping me. And even after getting the degree, I doubted. Even after getting the degree, I doubted that this is what I should do. I had all kinds of other side careers. I had a ton of random
Don't beat yourself
jobs.
up too much. You have a fucking moon in Libra. You're always going to be emotionally indecisive. So it's just like
I
fickleness is like a real thing for you. You're like, I don't know what I Pepsi or Coke, and there's like a gun to your head, like like that's
because I
going to
could
be
literally
one of
do any of it.
your
I would
Achilles
do
heel
any.
emotionally is indecision basically.
Yeah, it's really hard. And then I worked for Microsoft for a while. I worked for a circuit board assembly line. I worked for a marketing company for 10 years while I worked on all this other stuff. And I finally decided to go back for more education after in 2011. And I went back to finish physics basically. I was like, I just had this feeling that I was never going to be complete unless I found out just how smart I really am, because people had been telling me my whole life, like, you're a genius, you're smart, you're this, you're that, you're a child prodigy, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, well, if I was all that stuff, then I would be able to get the most hard degree that I can even think of. And I just, so I just, are we frozen?
Yeah, it seems Jim froze. So let's see, I'll just kick him and he'll be right back. So you're talking about this university, you said it was called Fairhaven, right?
Yeah. And but I decided to go back later to the same university, but for a degree in physics in 2011.
So I
And
just want to point out, hearing that story, and it seems to me pretty incredible what kind of university this would have been when they even, stress the idea so much, like, what is your mission on Earth? I'm just wondering, do you know anything of how such a university even came about? Because I went to something somewhat similar, not as extreme, but also like build your own degree. So I'm just wondering if you know anything, because it seems like the antithesis to the traditional, go to Harvard or, I don't know, MIT type thing, at least from what I'm hearing. So
yeah.
you want to say anything about it, or?
Yeah, well, it was we actually have several of these colleges in Washington. It's becoming like a popular orientation, I think, for school, but it's basically just for those of us that just don't fit in a box, that just and furthermore probably will never work, I won't say never, but are more likely to work for themselves and create a career for
You
themselves.
proved that wrong, because it's possible, but probably many people going there eventually, how should I say, their ultimate mission most likely is not working for someone else's,
But
how
so
should
like
I
some of
say,
these
strange ideas or whatever. Yeah.
like some of the other degrees were like people doing yoga without borders in prisons and running like making programs for prisons to have more like health and wellness. Some of them were like law and diversity, where they were like simultaneously getting a law degree and this integrated degree. So a lot of times people would couple them together. And I always thought that that was the smartest, to like get the 4-year degree from the university while you're also getting this like interesting integrated degree too, to like complement that. So that's why later I went back for physics in 2011. I decided I wasn't complete. I had taken so much math and so I decided to go back and just really dive into the physics and try to pursue a physics degree. And I got I did all the math for the degree, and I got to the junior level. And I'll say I got all the download of everything I needed to know about the Sonosphere everything I didn't understand that I thought I should, everything that was inspiring me now to like draw a new design, to know what I needed to do next. As soon as I got those signals, the next huge thing that happened was I met my husband while I was studying physics, and he was doing biochemistry. And he graduated, and when he graduated, I was like, I'm going with you. No way I'm staying here for like more years to just like chew away on this crap when I already figured out the essence of what I need to do.
Right. Yes.
So I ended up just settling for a minor in physics, which was ridiculous because I got like nearly a 4-year degree in physics and they would only give me all that work, but whatever. And then I also got a minor in material science. And the material science really helped me what materials to use for this that were going to be the best. And that was exciting to just be able to do all these like stress tests and just really understand like what something could handle, what a certain type of material could handle, and what is it's not going to handle. And also ways to bring comfort to the Sonosphere that don't dampen sound waves. I learned all about dampening and what an issue it is. And I'm looking at all these other sound beds that are out there, and they all have like all this thick padding. They're all built into like a massage bed. They all have like hella blankets and pillows and stuffing, and that's all
It's comfy, but it's defeating the purpose at a level.
defeating the purpose. And if you want a real therapeutic application of sound waves, a highway to you, that is free of just any obstruction.
Direct. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's like information loss. There's information loss that occurs with, I mean, obviously with anything, but acoustics. Everybody knows this. If you put fucking earplugs in your ears, like at a concert, it deadens the sound, and that's the same thing that happens with a cloth or foam padded chairs or whatever. So their intentions might be good, but whoops, they didn't design it very well.
Yeah, and the transducers are too small. So that was the other thing. And after graduating Fairhaven, I took my Sonosphere to this new age sound healing center in Bellingham. So that's where I ended up getting the owner to actually let me open and be doing my work there.
Represented.
Yeah, but she also had another sound chamber there that was called the Interdimensional Sound Chamber, and it was built by this other elder fellow. I think he was from Tennessee, and he passed away recently, but that was the first sound bed that I tried that wasn't mine. And when I got into it, I was very like underwhelmed. I was like, okay, I can feel it vibing, but like I expected it to be stronger. And also
like fake acid. It's like, this isn't real. This is low dose. What's going on?
Yeah, and also they're all with like these headphones. They all have like this predetermined frequencies, and you put on these headphones. And I as an audiophile, I just found myself wanting more control. I wanted volume control. I wanted intensity of control of like all the EQ, of the entire EQ spectrum. I wanted to be able to adjust where the intensity was on my body. And it would have been, and I was like thinking, yeah, it'd be really nice to have like a color bath of my favorite color. And as a sensory seeking human, I just started thinking about how could you make the ultimate bliss-filled experience
device.
Where you can, all your senses are like hellified in a way that nobody's done yet, because I'd seen a lot of like, I've gone to all the festivals, the clubs, the shows, the concerts, the video projections, I've seen a lot. I've seen it all, and I traveled the world a lot, and I just want to see something totally, totally new. Something that nobody's ever tried, that nobody can tell me anything how to do it because I invented it. And just something totally new. And how do you do that? How do you make something totally freaking new that feels amazing, that is valuable, that has value? To my people, like on every prototype, people would complain about this or that and I'd listen, and then on the next model I would change those things. Like one of the things was the pole. People always complained about the pole, which was my dad's original idea of like having the pole. And everybody was like, I just want to lay down on this thing. Like, I wish I didn't have to sit up with my legs crossed. I wish it was just like we could lay down. And this pole wasn't here. And so I'm like, at first I'm like, oh man, the pole is an essential part of the
Necessary for the structure. Yeah, it's like, wait, uh-oh.
I can't give that up. What the hell? I guess I'm just, this is over, I guess, or something. But then I had a vision, and it wasn't a dream because I was awake. But when I start thinking about things, I start seeing them in my mind's eye, and they kind of turn in 3D, and I can kind of pull things apart and put it back together. And the older I've
Ladies and
gotten,
gentlemen, she is a Sun and Mercury Aquarius. This is how that roll. This is what it is. You get the schematic download. Keep going though.
yeah, it also sucks to have this visionary power about bad things, though, because then when I'm visualizing bad things, it's just as strong. So it's like I gotta
For sure,
really
you're a hypochondriac. You're like, is that a mole or is that a? Yeah, it's like.
I've got to be careful, what I think about, because it's really a lot.
Yeah.
It really does happen. It tends to happen.
Heavy at the crown.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just started thinking about ways to improve it, and as I did, the pole in my vision, it just split into four. Like it got four slices in it, and then those slices expanded into a circle that could then hold something on the rim. And I saw suddenly half the wires and support something, but that since it would have absolutely no cross supports, like it would have to span completely a 7-foot thing, only supported on the edges. Because it needs that for cymatics, it's got to be loose. It cannot be bolted down. It's got to be free to vibrate and free to bounce and wobble and do things. And so it could not have been nailed down or screwed down. It cannot have any screw holes through it because it will crack at resonance.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a
It's a
tough.
puzzle.
It was a
Yeah.
puzzle. And I just got the aha moment, just came into my mind, and I saw how it could be real, and
If
I
only you were listening to the White Stripes, then you could have the yin yang experience of like both
the
Jack
black
Black and
white.
Jack White have given me the answer. Jack of all trades, I am.
I actually
So
have Jill of all trades, actually.
you are. I mean, you're a hacker. I mean, you're a hacker of life. So that means you got a tool belt. I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, you just think of yourself as like I don't even
Yeah.
know, a hacker. So how many
So
iterations did you go through?
So I went through 3. This is my third. Sonosphere 3.0 was born in 2018, and Sonosphere 2.0 was a whole another insane story that I went to Burning Man with Sonosphere 1.0, and I was such an insane undertaking to take it to Burning Man that I actually ended up leaving half of it in the fire there because my truck was breaking down under the weight of it, and I had to get home. So I just was like, I'm just gonna leave the platform and the heavy pieces that were made of wood. I left those in the fire for the tunnel, and I like got myself home somehow, and then literally and I'm thinking I'm done now with this project.
Project.
It's
Yeah.
dead now. It's over, and that's cool. I'm okay with it. And my phone rang in my back pocket while I was literally unpacking the dusty crap from my truck in Arcata, California, where I was staying with my brother. And my phone rang, and it was like this random guy from England. He was actually Irishman. He was calling from his place in England, and he said that he'd found me on the internet somehow. And I did have like a Facebook page up by then about the Sonosphere, and he said, "This is the coolest. This is the coolest concept, and
It's the next
I gotta
wave. This kicks ass. Yeah.
like I gotta see it. I have to see it." And I was like, "Well, I'm very sorry, but it's been destroyed by taking it to Burning Man, and it's no more. It was cool, but yeah, it's destroyed. And sorry." And he's like, "Oh, well, how much would it cost to just like fix it?" And I'm like, more than I'm willing to tell you. Like I'm just like so much more than you have, buddy, kind of thing. And
Sure.
and he was like, "What? Like what is it? Like $5,000, $10,000? Like what would fix it? Seriously?" And I'm like, "Well, I'd need like to professionally clean out my sound system and or get a new sound system because the dust
Dust.
basically toasted all my shit.
I mean, it's cool that you took it to Burning Man. I will say, I'm sure all those burners loved it or whatever. It was a
Oh
dope
gosh.
moment. But Jesus,
I
that's
was
not a stable environment.
no, and it was actually so crazy, just my own survival. I wasn't expecting to be so struggling with my own survival there that actually the number were really limited because so much of the motor I couldn't turn it anymore. So the desert
Were you
destroyer
just
that
doing it by yourself?
yeah, I went
Was it
there
just
with
you should have gotten some. Look, if you ever need help, holler.
I was
People
on
like
my
me will help
own.
you all
I
day.
was like, I didn't even have a boyfriend or anything at the time.
Well, it doesn't have to be a love relationship. I'm saying monkeys will help other monkeys if they're down for the cause or whatever.
Well,
You know, it is.
I
It
went
is
to,
what it-
well,
anyway, go on.
I did go with a camp, but like I was the first one there, so I was like building it by myself. I should have just waited in hindsight. But yeah,
I love you.
it was destroyed by
Well, it allowed for this progression. If you hadn't, I mean, you see how it all works out,
yeah,
right? It's like,
it
okay,
was
so British dude or Irish dude hollers, and
yeah,
he's like, "Yo, blank check,
yeah.
what's
So,
up?"
so he's like, "Yo, just give me your bank account and I'll put some money so you can fix it." And I was like, "Lol."
Angels among us, Jesus
And
Christ.
my brother was like, "Don't give anybody from the internet your bank
He's an
account." You know?
Ethiopian. He wants to steal from you, or
Yeah,
an
and I was
Ethiopian
like,
prince.
and to my brother, I was like, "What is he gonna do? Steal my $5 I have to my name? Like, I don't care." So I gave him my bank account number, and sure enough, a week later, there was like $8,000 in my bank account. And so I used that money to buy them, fix up the Sonosphere, clean up the welds, make a new platform, paint that platform, rent a storage unit to set it all up in and make it warm in there. And then and get all my stuff set up. And then once it was ready and finished, I told him to come to the US and see it. And
2.0 it. Yeah.
so he came to the
Shout out to
US.
the Irishman. Jesus, that's cool. It's like, what
I
up?
figured he's an angel investor. So he came to the USA. He brought two friends with him. They tried it for approximately 2 hours. And when they got down, he was like, "Well, I need one. I need one. And I don't want this one. I want the next version of this." And so what would you do if you had a budget of like $80,000 instead of 8,000? He's
Pump
like,
out the jams.
what would that
It's like,
what would
there you
that
go.
be? What would that look like, you know? But I was 25 and this was before my physics degree. There was a lot of stuff I did not understand still, but artistically, I took it to the next level. Materials wise, I took it to the next level.
Hmm.
Um, and I did change from a pyramid platform to a circle. So that had opened up the circle concept. And I made a lot more art sort of elements of it. It still had the crystals for the chakras. It had all that. It had a bunch of new age appendages. It was really interesting. Um, and I delivered that one to him in England and set it up for him to do a sound therapy
You got
business
a
there.
road trip out of it. You were like, "Hey, did you enjoy England?"
Yeah. I mean, I had been there traveling backpacking when I was like 18 and 19. I went there backpacking and I loved it. It was for my ancestry is from Ireland, and so I went through the UK and Ireland and Wales and checked it out when I was really young, and then going back there was cool to this guy's millionaire estate in England, and he had a literal castle with like servants' castle
What are
quarters.
the
And
odds a guy like that's just fucking around on Facebook and sees this thing? That's crazy.
it
Like
was
this
so
is
crazy. And
yeah.
so this stuff just keeps happening to me. And this guy was not the first. He was then the first of a long line of people that come out of the woodwork to help me when I need it the most. And I don't
Something
understand.
something to be
I don't.
grateful for.
It is, and I don't understand fully what this path
Don't try. Don't try to
is.
understand it. It's not like that.
I just know that if my intention stays pure, that I have this divine blessing of wherever it comes from. I don't know, but it as long as I'm aligned with my mission, then it's flowing. And
Yeah. It's like when your
after
devotion is tapped in,
yeah,
the helpers that need to kick in join the group or whatever.
yeah. So then after I did my physics degree, or my physics education with the material science and everything, um, there was one last experiment that really affected me, which was my junior project for physics. And for that, I did a holography project, and I got access to the whole basement of the physics department in this room by myself, which was an electromagnetically sealed room that was absolutely silent, like silent, so
Like
silent.
hear your organs kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and because holography, you can't have the slightest vibrations, or else it's all messed
What
up.
is holography? Just so I'm on the same page here. Like holographics?
Holographics, like
Yeah.
actual holography. So
Okay.
I did that in physics as my final project, and trying to take a hologram of the face of a crystal oscillator that was positioned at the end of a tube, and I had a speaker at the other end playing pure tones into the tube. And I had the biggest aha moment. Long story short, I did not get the goal of my experiment, but I figured out something else on accident. And this is how science always gets people. Um,
Yeah.
and so it was the
Like
speaker.
Albert Hoffman. He's like, I want to make something for
Yes.
women to. Yeah. It's like whoopsies, whoopsie doodles. Keep going though.
And lessons from those mistakes. So I just had a little speaker, and I just play a pure tone through it, and it sounds like I wasn't, it's, what is it, like 528 hertz, and it's like "Ee," and you're just like, oh, make it stop, but I have to listen to this sound as loud as possible because I'm trying to get it to resonate this crystal plate, right? So I'm just like, oh god, wear earplugs for this experiment because this is really bad. And I take the speaker, and I mount it onto the tube. After I mounted it onto the tube, I played the exact same note through it, and this time it makes this like full sort of like beautiful sound. What happened? It was because it went down a tube.
Like a
There was
didgeridoo.
It's something about the tube made overtone harmonics happen. And I recently put out a video about this because it's seriously one of the fundamental understandings I have about resonance, which is at resonance, you get overtone harmonics, tons more overtone harmonics that add to the beauty of what you're listening to.
The
And
complexity of it. Yeah.
complexity. And every time you have harmony, it's just good. It just feels good. It is good. And the transformation made me realize the truth that sound is round. I actually have it on our sweatshirts. Sound is round, because that's our motto. But that's when I realized it had to be,
Sound is round. There you go.
yeah, it had to be resonating, and it had to be round, had to be a circle, because circles,
Tubular bells kind of style.
tubes and circles complement the mechanics of sound waves. And so it was born my next version 3.0, but it was just in my head and an idea until 2018. I was starting to get, I had this opportunity maybe to put the Sonosphere at the Seattle Science Center. They were like interested. So I had a reason to like get it out of my head, the new design, because they had seen the old design and they were kind of interested. So I was like, how about I show you this really cool new one that I want to build, and then you guys give me a grant to build it. And they were like, yeah, it's really cool, but it can't hold like 100 kids in a day. They were concerned that it was like just for one person or whatever. They were like, we don't, they decided in the end not to invest in it. And I was like, I was super bummed because I'd put all this work into drawing out the design and all this shit. And then whatever, I let it go. It was hard to let it, but just again, like I just was like, fine, I let it go. And then COVID happened. And because I'm self-employed, I actually have 2 self-employed businesses when COVID hit. I'm a website designer, and I have the Sonosphere, the old Sonosphere business, which I had been doing like tea lounge, sound light bath, exotic dances, just kind of
Like events. Yeah.
doing events and stuff. But yeah, this design was in the cooker for a while, and I just didn't have money. And then when COVID hit and our government here in Washington decided to give self-employed people a living stipend, and my businesses were still kind of operating, but I'd lost like 80% of my clientele. But basically, after the money that the gov gave us, we still had enough left over to like put into something. And a lot of my friends were like considering buying houses and buying land and stuff. And me and my hubby were like, I just was like,
3.0. 3.0.
can I do the Sonosphere? Like, please, this, and my husband being also a musician, a techie, a fantasy nerd, a sci-fi lover, he was like, this seems like we're in a movie. And I'm like, that's how it's always felt to me. If you want to be on the ride, like, say yes. And so he's like, okay, I'm on this ride with you. We're doing this now. So we started having it built, and I included him in all the intimate ideas about it, and he started to have ideas about how to improve it too, namely how to connect it to the brain of a computer. Because I had been using my concepts of hardware, like having an actual frequency generator, like we did in physics lab. I was setting it up like
Like an oscillator?
yeah, like an actual oscillator and like actual physics equipment. I was like thinking like
Super. You
hardware
could make it
based.
spiffier. Yeah.
Yeah, thinking like a whole room to control it, full of all this cool
Yeah.
stuff, Moog
NASA
synthesizers.
style.
Yeah, I was just thinking like a whole lab, and he was
Yeah.
like, oh, you could do all this like in a couple different programs on a computer. Like you don't need all these units. You can just use a computer for this. And I'm like, I don't know how to do any of that though. And he's like, I do. So he made it so that we had more parameter controls just easily. So we have like phase control between the transducers. We have volume and LFO, rate control, and then full EQ on every transducer bank. We have 10 transducers. And just to brag for a second, most sound beds, med beds, whatever, they have like the wattage is around 250 to 300 watts of power. On a Sphere, we have 4,500 watts of power. And this is across 10.
Get blasted. Yeah.
This is the ultimate. It's across 10 transducers. We got them divided into banks of 4. We got 4 banks with 3 transducers each. The center one has just 1. And this combination, that's cool. Try having like 4 frequencies at the same time. Now we have a chord. And most people are used to how cool a chord sounds when you hear it, like a guitar chord or a piano chord. But a haptic chord that is felt, vibrationally. And when I say vibrationally, I mean literal vibration, not like etheric
cymatically. Yeah.
Actually a mechanical, tactile vibration that we play as a chord. And the Sonosphere, the body of the Sonosphere, is a resonant body, just like an instrument. It's round. It's designed to receive sound waves and amplify them and to create overtone harmonics. And it's built with geometry in regards to the space geometry that I was talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And the power, then you put the power behind that with the 4,500 watts. And then you
fully tuned instrument, basically.
It's an instrument.
Like a multi-dimensional instrument, really.
Yes. And like an instrument, it has its own modes of resonance. It has its own fundamental frequency. It has its own tone, profile. And that is what we call the calibrated Sonosphere. So at calibration, when there's nobody on there, we've got, these certain frequencies that it resonates naturally, and you get the amplitude spike, you get the volume increase when we hit those notes. Now everybody wants to know, like, do you find the frequency of a person? Not exactly. What we do is when a person gets on the Sonosphere, their mass, their weight shifts the resonance that that system resonates at. So it's a mechanical resonance system, and a person entering into that system has now added themselves as a new variable, which is basically, as far as the physics are concerned, it's just adding
changes
weight.
everything. Yeah.
It changes the weight variable, which changes everything. Yeah.
It's just for people who are maybe not following. It's like getting on a trampoline and then putting a bowling ball on it. It's like jumping on it changes the experience completely. So
it does.
Anyway,
and how we figured it out too was like when Rowan and I were first experimenting on each other, like he would get it all perfectly tuned so that for me it felt really good physically. And then I'd be like, oh my God, babe, you have to come try this. Get on here so you can feel how this feels. And then he would leave the sound station, come up, and then as he gets on the Sonosphere, the feeling like goes away, like dissipates. It changed. It's like, why did it change when he got on here? Because that was only tuned for my weight. As soon as he gets on, it becomes disharmonic and it's not doing the same amazing stuff inside my body. It completely changed it. So that's when we realized, wow, this has got to be like a custom tuned situation. We are going to custom tune this thing to each person. And then we're going to play a sound journey ambisonically. So that's the other huge differentiation, is that it's not in headphones. It's ambisonically
Whole body, yeah.
all around, and not just surround sound, but also above and below sound as well. That's the ambisonic part. And so being in that sound shell is cool, but then you also make it a close range sound shell. Most ambisonic systems are like, you know, in a room, like spread out in a big room, right? And we have this all, you know, zeroed into this like 8-foot sphere that's all close range based onto you. It's all trained onto you. And that feeling is indescribable, of just being like the source, the listening source of an entire sphere of sound. And you know, for the music selections, I've been collecting things for this library for a really long time. So we've got a lot of different music that we mix. We choose a different mix every time. Some of it is solfeggio or pure tones or meditation or you know, nature sounds. Some of it is psychedelic bass music. Some of it is orchestral. But whatever we have chosen, we make sure that it is the highest produced, like very well produced music that is not going to make you like cringe on any frequency. We're both sound mouse people, and we're very sensitive to like when something wasn't produced with enough mastery. So we try to choose soundtracks that are like very clear, very well done, and that are in the meditation genre or the down tempo genre. We do have a couple of packages that are for like upbeat, more energetic, psychedelic based music, and there might be drums on those. But in general, we try to keep the sessions without drums, just really meditative, so people can go into really deep states. And they'll stay in a session for 60 minutes, 90 minutes, or sometimes 2 hours. And this is also not even touching the topic of like psychedelic integration as well.
All right, we can do so. A few things that are popping in my mind. I mean, just random crazy stuff. I know the Grateful Dead made the Wall of Sound. You might know a little about that, just because I don't know.
I have heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you some information about it. But it's like you're on the cutting edge of some technology that needs to be a part of like every little town. How do we do this? It's like every town needs this in their town center or something. Like at one point, it was like gazebos for the band and, you know, Sergeant Pepper's or whatever. It seems like a very logical progression in terms of like health and entertainment. It's entertaining, I guess, but it's got actually has a servicing function. Something that came to mind when you're talking about being such an audiophile. I don't tend to think of myself as one. I'm definitely not as qualified as you and your husband. But if you ever listen to Roundabout by Yes, it was a great prog rock band from England. There's this breakdown in the middle of it, and I hear the most high pitched like squeal, and I'm like, I don't know if other people hear that. How did that get on the record? How do they allow it? So I can understand what you mean by like not every song, in a sense, or not every recording is going to be appropriately tuned for the device.
Yeah.
Do you guys?
Well,
I mean, I'm kind of going off on all these mental rabbit holes. Go ahead.
We can play anything, like if and people do request their own music, and we can do that. We take it on a flash
Like,
drive.
I just want the Price is Right theme looped, please.
Yeah, we have to have the file like as a file. It cannot be streamed. There's no streaming in the Sonosphere. It's got to be like the actual file. But if we have that, we can we basically determine what key it's in. And then we find other tracks that we can blend it with if they're just bringing like one track, or if they're bringing like a whole album that they want. We've got to tune our transducers to those transitions. And so there's a little bit of pre-work that we need to do before somebody brings
that.
Like
DJing. It sounds like you got to really interact with the situation like on the fly.
It's like a a healing DJ session. And I tend to not like the word healer. I don't identify as a healer, actually. I'm
Oops.
I'm
In your
very
blip, I'm like, healer. Like,
yeah,
I hate that word. It's like,
I
I didn't know you were a fucking Aquarius yet. Don't blame
I
me.
don't identify. Lots of people call me that though, so I understand,
Well, your
these
North Node, your karma, your destiny, whatever you want to put it, is in Cancer. You're here to nurture people in a very motherly way. So you are the
I
quintessential. I mean, I know you've got kids. You're a great mom, no doubt, for sure. Like, you are here to have those kids, but at the same time, like, there's an energy of nurturance that's going to happen, like cup spilling over, that has nothing to do with your like womb. So it's like
yeah,
you are the quintessential soccer mom in a sense. Where you're like, everybody come over for cookies and
actually
sonospheres or whatever.
it's funny you say that because my friends started calling me mama when I was like 20. Like it didn't
That's
even before I ever was a
see,
mom.
I'm never gonna push astrology on people, but guys, like,
They call me Big Mama.
it's a little like the tuning of your. I mean, essentially, the the acoustic profile of your soul's journey in this incarnation at a level. If we're gonna assume it's actually accurate, but I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. What's the longest you've ever been in this thing? I mean, did you like live in it for a week or something like that, or
I
what are
really
the effects with like super long exposure?
well, I really love it, and I haven't found any bad effects personally from being in it for a long time. The longest I've been in there is 3 hours. And there's also like a time dilation thing that happens when you're in there. So like 3 hours did not feel like 3 hours. It felt like an hour and a half maybe. Um, but it was the longest I've been in there. So, but it's open. I mean, people can. In our liability waiver, people have to sign that they understand that this whole thing is an experiment and that they are
Your
willing.
organs could explode. We don't know.
We don't
It's
know.
like
And
yeah.
that was one of the reasons I chose the material, acrylic plexiglass as the main platform instead of wood, because it's like, well, if it gets soiled during COVID, if someone throws up on it or
Sure.
something else,
Easily cleaned.
any kind, it's easily cleaned, it's easily sanitized. I can use bleach on it, I can use disinfectant on it. I can reassure everyone, it doesn't require a bunch of laundry, like using pillows and blankets. I can actually just sanitize my silicone padding with a spray and in between people, and it's great. And people love that because during COVID, sanitation protocols were majorly a big deal.
Hyper vigilant.
Yeah, and this is also me offering something that you can do alone, without anyone. So this was coming out of COVID, this was very attractive because it was like, well, we've been in our houses for 2 years, and I actually just wanna be in a little cocoon anyway, and now I'm getting to go into this, like, womb of the universe to, like, bliss out by myself in this, like, warm, dark, like, and lighted, cave of wonder. And people very much get to choose their scent. We give them a
This
questionnaire
is a
before the
full
session.
on sensory experience.
Full
Like
sensory.
fully. Yeah.
Yeah, we give you the scent option, and then you can choose your music theme. Um, the feeling. We have like all these different themes of feelings of music. We even have like a grief release journey. It's for people that literally just need to cry. Play me sad songs that will like make my soul weep. Like we have that as an option, and people have chosen it. Um, we we
I'm not
have
hating on that. Sometimes you gotta cry. Cry it out.
It's great. It's great. And we even have a session where you can bring your therapist if you want to have like a really deep session of real therapy with your own therapist, but go deeper with vibroacoustic therapy. That's an option too.
So you were
So
saying something to the effect of there was time dilation. I mean, clearly these things are gonna have effects on the senses. That's the whole point, immersion, and then there's probably some, alchemical transmutation going on. Just whatever. I don't need to jargon it up, but it's like things happen.
yeah,
It
time
sounds
goes.
psychedelic without psychedelics. I mean, you hear of Joe Rogan, doing whatever and going into sensory deprivation stuff. Have you or other people tripped? Like, how does that go?
Yeah, sensory deprivation is actually an option on our questionnaire. You can have it totally dark. We also have like very subtle galaxy lights going on in there. We can make the sonosphere itself dark. Some people do prefer that, but yeah, we've had some people just show up for their session like peeking on mushrooms or
Spunions. Like,
or
which
something,
way?
and I'm not startled at all by that. In fact, I like that people trust this situation enough to show up in that way.
So
And
maybe instead of soccer mom, as Gail is offended by that term potentially, the psychedelic mom. But that sounds like you're like, cooking up drugs in your bathtub or something. So anyway, we'll figure it out. So
but
okay, so after COVID, I mean, you've been showing this to people for a while
mhm.
now.
Yeah, for about a year we've been open. We also took it to Los Angeles this last
You're in
summer.
LA. That's my mind was thinking you were in LA. And then when I saw all this, I'm on an island in, Pac Northwest, I was like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah, I had this
So
idea that like
are you good?
I just figured nobody was ever gonna find me on this island. But then I went to LA and I experienced being like a drop in a bucket there. So I felt even less findable in the city where I thought I would be quote discovered. It was like it
Mm.
was harder because there's so many more humans to compete with. There's so much more attention to compete with. There's so many things going on. There's so many, great immersive experiences even. There's even people there doing very similar thing to what I'm trying to do. So it was
But you're doing the top-notch shit. I think we've
I
found the
love
Fabergé egg of the
I
Sonosphere
really am.
reality.
I've pulled out all the stops. I have made the top quality experience and top quality product that I'm really proud of. But yeah, being down there, it was cool just being around others that are huge creators, like people that had huge projects going on, like movie
Mm.
making and it was cool to be on that scale, I guess, to be around people like that. But it all wow, where I was on the island in the woods was
I'm
so
happy you're
quiet.
there.
It was so quiet, and we have all this freedom. Like, that's really the thing is we have all this freedom to be
Mm.
loud, to have bass music, to have, psychedelic integration. We have freedom, and that was the thing I didn't it was so obvious in my I took it for granted, basically, and, like, when I went to the city, I had a reawakening of, like, where spirit made where I was born, where I was planted was intentionally that is where I'm supposed to grow from.
Mhm.
And even when I was down in LA, I was using all of my like social media marketing skills and internet skills to bring people just the same as I do when I'm on the island, and it was working just as well. So I'm like, why should I be in the city paying this ridiculous overhead in the woods
Yeah.
having freedom, just as many people doing just as many covers. So yeah, it was like a very big like Dorothy moment for me of like, oh, I never should
There's
have
no
gone
place
to
like home. There's no place like home. There's no
my own
place like home.
backyard, that
I
was kind of the realization.
totally gotcha. So are you guys, I mean, I know you sell them. I looked at your website and we're putting your link tree. It's below your name here so people can see all your socials and stuff.
Mhm.
I'm not used to Linktree, but that's definitely the way to get all your cards in one basket, I guess. So props. I was like, yeah, all of it's there. Instagram, TikTok, everything. But how does I mean, this is some random stuff. And Raphael, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. Like franchising, or you build models for people. I'm sure it's not that cheap, clearly. So I'm like, how are you getting this out to the masses? Having this conversation doesn't hurt, clearly. But
Yeah.
I'm wondering, is your
Well,
goal to have like center, or like, install it in centers and just be on call or train people to do this? Or what is
yeah.
your vision kind of?
So it took us a lot of time to think about this and like how we want to do this and also get feedback and just kind of test the market and stuff. And what I've come to know about my business, Vibroacoustics, and the products that I'm creating and also what I have planned, the products that are coming down the pipeline besides the Sonosphere,
No, no,
uh,
no.
we we focus on industry, basically the sound haptic and sensory experience industry. And I very much feel like my products are for industry professionals that have dedicated their lives to either sound therapy or wellness of some form, or running a retreat center,
Mhm.
um, anything that is health and wellness related and part of a new earth, so to speak. Those are the people that I built the Sonosphere for. And I very much am hoping that they will that that there will be more locations opened. I get at least 100 requests a week from
Oh
people
yeah,
saying,
come to our gig
come
or whatever.
come to our state, come to our country, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's like, what would it take to bring it here? Well, I'll
Mhm,
tell you what it would take. It takes somebody buying one and opening a center, which is incredibly expensive. It is
mhm,
outside of the realm of most people. I'm just going to say it. There are, of course, options for under $10,000 that you can buy as a personal unit for your home. There's In Harmony. There is Opus beds that came out on the market. Those are great. And those are wonderful for personal use at home. The Sonosphere and everything else I'm going to build is on a massive, massive level. It's on an industrial level of like, we're going to be creating centers for humans to come to. And and yes, there might be like a travel version eventually, but right now we are focusing on creating new machines
mhm,
to have people open their own centers. And how we're doing it is we've applied for a patent. That patent is pending currently. And I'm going to, we are eventually going to charge patent royalties for using the Sonosphere in a commercial setting. However, while the patent is pending for the next year or two, it takes a while. It takes like 2, sometimes 3 years to go through. While the patent's pending, we are actually going to waive our patent royalty fees and our commercial licensing fees, which is a really big deal. So we're essentially giving a really good deal to the first, handful of people that buy Sonosphere and want to open a center. And we're also including sound therapy training, so to actually show you not just how to like operate the Sonosphere and do it safely, but also how to like go to the next level of understanding in sound therapy, because what we've actually found from using the Sonosphere is some pretty incredible stuff. So we're going to train and share all of our knowledge with the people that open centers, and we will send people, like we will send traffic to those centers as they're opened up.
mhm.
um, and we also will provide the website clone and everything to get them started. So it's not really a franchise, because I ultimately do not want responsibility for how people use. I don't want to be liable for anyone else's mistakes with this machine, because it is a very powerful machine. So
Plus, you
accepting
don't wanna go everywhere. I mean, there's a lot of requests clearly and a lot of desire for this, and you only have one life.
and there's only one right now, so it's like somebody who would want to take this on would have to be willing to take on the liability, the expense, and the time of opening one of these centers.
Sure.
Mhm,
But once it's open, this will bring abundance. It will pay for itself. It can be coupled with literally any other therapy you could ever imagine. And we're doing pretty well out here, just being in the middle of nowhere and using only like the internet, like social media to bring people to us. My TikTok videos are my main way, and word of mouth, that I get people to come. And if it was in a city or an urban setting, it would just be that much easier.
would sell
And
itself. I
yeah,
mean, if you
and
build it, they will
So
come kinda
just let
thing.
me ask, since you're already being so concrete in the whole package, which is, I think, amazing and sounds honestly, even though understandably you don't want liability, like the most responsible way to do it,
Mhm.
especially if it's such a, high grade device to send people and
I mean, their stomachs
so
could
on.
explode, we
So
don't know.
just and this is of course not anything like a final quote, but just from all the services that you would provide as this complete package, what kind of price range are we talking about now? Besides, opening up a center, renting a place, and so on, but just
yeah.
from your side.
So it's we have two different models, and there's two different price points. And the deluxe model, which is the one that you see in all my videos, the one that we have now, that has the sphere, the outer sphere rotating, all that. That one is starting at 85,000, and this includes the delivery, the shipping, the tax, the training, and the installation. Is all included in that price. So that's the turnkey price. There are also upgrades that you can get as well, but that's the starting
What kind
price.
of upgrade?
Upgrades like if you wanted a custom art piece etched onto it, if you want me to custom design the cutouts, like they could do, like if you wanted like the Elvish language, like from Lord of the Rings, like carved into the side. I'd redesign the vector drawings so that you could get
One
whatever you.
sphere to bind them all. Or
Yeah,
something.
and then
I'm
also
wondering, not that this is, I not want to say the wrong thing now. Let's just say, what about big famous entertainment parks that have super expensive amusement rides? Wouldn't they be interested or something?
I mean, I've reached out to like
Disney
area
World.
15 in Vegas and some different places, and the constant concern is, oh, but it only holds one person at a time or two people at a time. That's the constant complaint. So I always listen to my people, and I'm coming out with a new big group solution that's going to hold up to 24 people.
What?
And that's
What
all
are
I'm
the
going to say.
dimensions on that? Oh, yeah, I was like, that's got to be. I mean, if a 7-foot platform for one person, that's got to be like a building, right? Oh, whatever. She's not going to tell us anymore. She said whatever. But
Yeah,
Jesus Christ,
that's all I'm going to say.
scalable, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
It's coming down the pipeline. There's a lot I've up upgraded in my future plans. But yeah, it is definitely something that we're going to have a lot of different versions of this now that I've learned a lot about how these materials act under constant use over years of being in and out of these resonant states, what that does to hardware, what that does,
Yeah.
you
Trial
need
and
a,
error, kind of notebooking kind of stuff.
yeah, I mean,
Are
you
you
almost need,
documenting this well? Like, or is this like all in your head when when you die, the recipe goes, or like how are you kind of time capsuling this?
yeah. Well, so I do all my design work in Adobe Illustrator, and then that's a vector-based program. So I'm drawing out essentially puzzle pieces that are two-dimensional. And by the way, one of the other upgrades you can get is the lowrider paint job. Like they do like the pinstriping and the sparkle, like tropical
Okay.
glitz, like lowrider paint jobs. Anyway, those are like 10 grand paint jobs. We could totally do something like that. That'd be so cool. So that's one of the things if you want it like super fancy. And then the other Sonosphere model starts at 65,000, and that one has we're calling that one the clinical Sonosphere. And by the way, this is all on my website on the page Invest, which is only visible on the desktop version. And if you want to check it out on a mobile phone, you just have to go to the direct URL, which is thesonosphere.com/invest. Because it is an investment to buy a Sonosphere and open a center. So that's why it's not just like buy a Sonosphere, because there's a lot more to it than just like picking one up at the store. So anyway,
It's not air fresheners at 7-Eleven, I guess is what you're saying.
yeah,
It's a
it's
little less
pretty involved.
open.
I mean, the high-end sound equipment that we're putting on there, we're building them in the USA. We're doing, using artisan metalsmiths like in Seattle. Like this is the real deal. And so I am looking for folks that want to open a center and make this their career, which I have plenty of interested folks. A lot of the people who are coming to us to try the Sonosphere are like some kind of wellness practitioner themselves. They're either doing sound therapy already, or they're doing acupuncture or something related, naturopathy.
Which is
So
like an
there's
extension of that modality, basically. They're like, this makes sense.
and it
Yeah.
really makes sense to blend with like all these different things. So yeah, that's where we're headed. And then we also are gonna soon be getting equipment to do clinical studies, because right now we're pretty much operating off of our testimonials, which are awesome, and we have a lot of Google reviews, also great testimonials.
You need
And
a
I
peer review. You need a scientific
then I
thing.
keep
Nail it in.
exactly, because I have my testimonials to point to, and that's good. And so we will be very careful about our language. We will say, our clients report pain relief,
Mhm.
but we don't say this will cure your pain. We can't say that. But I experience pain relief with the Sonosphere. I use it for my chronic back pain, and others do too. So, it just depends on your body. It depends on a lot of things, but vibroacoustic therapy as a thing has been known to relieve pain. Also should be noted, if you guys go look on Wikipedia for vibroacoustic therapy, which is sometimes abbreviated VAT, there's some kind of like troll that hates us on there that keeps like rewriting the whole Wikipedia page. Like when
The
I
one
first started,
downside of Wiki, it's open source or whatever, right? So
yeah,
it's like,
it's
oh
bad.
shit.
So like, when I first started doing this work, there was a very scientific page up that had like all the freshest research about it and the FDA, what they think about it, and it was like a very well laid out page. Now it's been taken over, and it just says, this is pseudoscience, and this doesn't do anything, and somebody has rewritten that to sabotage this work.
We need to make a
just to
chat bot that always
anybody
updates
who
that
didn't know
article.
yet, anything that's interesting is labeled pseudoscience on Wikipedia. So yeah,
Yeah.
people that know are not dismayed by that, and even if they see it, they would be like, "Oh, I gotta check that out in more detail." If they say that, so
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
And
science
that
was
can be
leeches
annoying.
at one point. So anyway, keep going.
so if you do want real scientific info about like what is currently understood about vibroacoustic therapy, go to my website and look at my clinical studies page. I have prepared an entire list with links to peer-reviewed studies about vibroacoustic therapy, the application of 40 hertz audio signals to subjects, both human and mouse colonies, and their findings. And there's also a comprehensive like review by, I think it was like the medical, it was one of the more popular medical journals did a comprehensive review of vibroacoustic therapy as a thing, and that's like a couple, like it's like 10-page long PDF, and that I embedded that on the page so you can read that too. And it just really, the conclusion is basically like, yes, this is an entirely intriguing therapy that has a lot of promise. With every study they do, they get like positive results, that is incredibly hopeful for a lot of things. And at the top of my link tree, I also put this new study that just came out by MIT about 40 hertz specifically. And it has this amazing ability that they have actually proven that it's increasing nerve density and helping to remedy or prevent Alzheimer's from developing in these mouse or rat populations. So definitely read that. It's one of the more fascinating true peer-related studies peer-reviewed studies that's been done on this industry on vibroacoustic therapy. It's truly amazing. And if after learning about the power of 40 hertz, this is pretty amazing that the Sonosphere, its uncalibrated resonance frequency, its fundamental resonance frequency is at 40 hertz. And I did not plan this. Like, this is like totally,
Serendipitous.
it just turned out like that. We went to test it, and the resonance, it's actually,
This makes me
it's
wonder if it should be 42. It's the meaning of life and everything. The universe is like, whoa.
well, it's actually just below 40, like 37, and then when people get on there, it becomes exactly 40. And then with some people it'll be like 39, or like some people like 42, but it's in this range.
So just
That's,
for everyone to understand, why is this relevant? What I'm seeing now here, this is related to gamma brainwave frequency. Is that possible?
yeah. Well, and regarding those brainwave frequencies, your brain is always having all the different brainwave states going on at the same time, and if waking will have more of one type than another. And I think there's this misconception that we just don't have these other types of brainwave
They're like
power.
pure channels. It's like there's many channels at once on the internet going. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're very we're multifaceted being. Brain is not that simple. It's not that cut and dry, but one thing
Tell
that
that to
we're
the guy who invented lobotomies. It's like,
oh god, yeah,
nose, I guess.
that was such a bad choice.
What were we doing? I don't even know. Okay, go on. I don't mean to interrupt you.
I just slip it in there. Something, yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, we have come across a cool thing though with like most people have heard of binaural beats where you have
Mhm.
your headphones and you've got a 1 hertz difference between these two frequencies that one of them's in one ear and one's panned to the other side. And the difference between them creates this central wobble that you perceive as being in the middle of your head. And it's like this emergent third beat frequency that comes out of
Yeah.
having that slight difference.
Yeah.
And we've managed to do this not binaurally, but like ambisonically, which I'm sure someone has probably done this before. I don't think we're the first ones to do it, but basically with our setup, if we just leave a 1 hertz difference between um these different frequencies,
Components. Mhm.
there will start to be these overtone harmonics that emerge from that, that feel like you're getting if it feels like 5 more transducers joined the party, but nothing was added. It is the most insane feeling. Um, Also, the the Sonosphere causes little resonances inside your body, to build up in different areas, and it's changing all the time as the music changes and the frequencies change. But like we've gotten some resonance, like I've gotten my trachea to resonate on there. I've gotten my uterus to resonate on there. Um, and we write even if we write down the exact everything that caused that, right? For me, like, if I'm feeling it, I'm like, "Oh my god, stop. I'm feeling my trachea resonating. We gotta write down everything you're doing right now." And we do this, and then we try to do it to somebody else, and it doesn't work. And it's because we are all individual. Our bodies all have different mass distribution. We have different everything. So it's really a fallacy, you guys, that like one certain frequency will heal everyone in the exact same way. 528 hertz, 111 hertz. We get this all the time. Can you play this frequency? Can you play this? Or so and so has a book where it tells you what organ that each frequency is and blah blah. But it's like we know from experimentation that that isn't true. That every single person has a unique, um, you know,
Signature, acoustic signature.
yeah, like of the frequencies that they will resonate with, on the Sonosphere. And I suspect that this is going to be the same whether you're trying to explode a cancer cell with radio frequencies or whether you're using sound frequencies. But make sure that if you're talking about frequency, that you understand this very fundamental thing, which is that frequency is like the description of a rate, and you still have to tell me what kind of wave you're talking about. Are you talking about a sound wave, or are you talking about an electromagnetic wave, which radio waves are in that spectrum? There's a whole bunch of waves that are in the electromagnetic spectrum, like X-rays and gamma rays. And like, for a scientist, we need to know what kind of wave are you talking about. So you can't say something like, I healed myself with frequency. That doesn't make any
Like saying, "I
sense.
eat food," and it's like, "Well, did you have sriracha on that, or did
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have
that's
salt
too
and
general.
pepper?"
Um,
Yeah.
so you have to be more specific. What kind of wave are you talking about? And then know that resonance is unique, that personal resonance is entirely unique. And when we figure out what a full human being, like what its resonance signature is, and we can predict that for each individual, then that will be the day that we have teleportation. And I believe that
Beam me
fully.
up, Scotty, indeed.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, now we're gonna get to this is I mean, the age of Aquarius is here, guys. This is what it is. Pluto has entered Aquarius, like transformation and how we deal with technology is gonna change. And the funny thing is what we tend to presuppose because of I mean, I think it typically that Raphael might disagree because he's a little I'm not gonna say more conspiratorial, but it's like I would like to think that, people were trying their best when we were talking about like religions don't say it's like these are how do you get tailored truth to masses and in a sense that's like with like the waves where it's like 432 hertz do it. I actually want to know your opinion on that but it seems one size does not fit all, but we have to try to like approximate kind of a bell curve experience, in a sense it's like here's what to kind of generally expect, but it's not like in stone. um Raphael, before I start just like buckshotting her with random questions that are on my mind, do you have any?
Well, anything that would be like technical explanations, which also would probably go over the top of my head. I just
Totally over
now
my head.
actually opened the website itself. That's why I put the other link too on the description now, even though it's the invest link, but then everyone can find it. And also immediately you can actually see what it looks like. I hadn't seen it yet.
It's beautiful.
Looks like, yeah, basically it looks like the thing from Contact, yeah, but it's real. So, and yeah, about
With
the
a little
whole,
sacred geometry on it too for the kids
Man,
and the drug.
yeah,
yes,
throughout making this thing, there has been some movies that I just feel spoke to me so directly that I just cried in the theater because I felt like it was like spirit talking directly to me, saying, you are on the right track, keep going. And Contact was one of them, and Cloud Atlas, when she's in
Oh
the thing,
yes, yes,
the
yes.
lotus thing opens up on the mountain and it becomes a satellite dish and then points out and it's got
Oh,
the
with your dad connecting there
yeah,
too.
yeah, I just got chills and I'm like, oh my god. And then
The
and
true,
then
true.
the true, yes. And I mean, oh my god, I mean, I'm a cult follower of that movie. I've watched it like
I
50
saw it
times,
like 2 or 3 times in theater.
and I
I on
still
Facebook
haven't
when it
gotten
dropped, I'm like, y'all, this deserves a second viewing. And straight up, we should geek out about that. I mean, we'll have you on another time because you're cool. You're obviously Team Rabbit Hole. But like the archetypal different. I mean, it's obvious if you think about it, and maybe I'm just fucking slow to the party, but it's like it's almost like gender and race are so malleable that it's like like
yeah,
polarity exploration in a sense. It's like, all right, you were a black woman here and now you're gonna be a white woman or man here, and
yes. And all
it's a psychedelic movie.
and it's more about it. What it shows you is that the essence of a person is what survives the lifetimes more than like the gender or the just where you've lived a billion lives. It really becomes character and character every time, and that's what lives for longer. Um, so yeah, those movies were
Old
definite. Oh,
Georgie. Oh,
and old
yeah,
Georgie,
so
and in
great.
that movie, her Hail Berry, her name's Louisa in the freaking
Oh
in,
shit. Yeah, Halle
yeah,
Berry's name is Louisa.
reporter.
Uh,
And I
and
was
she's
just like,
this future like healer with tech. The crazy part is this, like it, it's like Arthur C. Clarke said, it's like magic is indistinguishable from tech. It's technology that we just don't get, basically.
yes,
So she's going in and doing all this kind of like, talking to the shop, pretending to be a medicine. You know the movie.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
going in and doing stuff on the DL because it's like this will fuck up. It's like against the Prime Directive essentially. So she's like, I can't go in there and tell people what's going on, but I'll, you saved my life, I owe you. Um, yeah, no, I'm glad I. So, what other movies are there? Any other movies? Cloud Atlas, Contact. If people don't know, I mean, these are solid films, and
yeah.
based both on books. Might I add? I haven't read either, but check them
They're
out.
based. Contact's a great book. And then
Carl Sagan, I think.
Carl Sagan's a hero of mine. I also really loved Interstellar and Arrival.
Fuck yes, yes,
Both of
yes.
those are just really up
Okay,
there.
okay. So if you're into Arrival, the guy who wrote that is Ted Chiang. You can. I have your email. I guess I can email you whatever. I was like, hit me up on Facebook, whatever, because I tend to not email very much. Don't ask. But Ted Chiang wrote a bunch of short stories. One of which was Arrival. And it's pretty. I mean, it came out like '98 or something crazy. He's got a few others that are. You and your husband probably will shit your pants. They're very sci-fi, but they're like Arrival. But some like one of them in particular is about this drug called like chemical K or something like that. And basically, it's like, I mean, I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but it's the most psychedelic short story. It was almost like coming up on drugs, and by the end of it, I felt like an X-Man or something. Basically, it's like people who had brain damage who are given this experimental drug that like does neurogenesis and the consequences of that. And it just gets into this crazy space. I'll send you links. And y'all, whoever's listening, Ted Chiang's I think Stories of the Lives of Others or something like that is the collection. He's got a few. One of them is about the Ouroboros nature of reality with the Tower of Babel. It's crazy. I mean, he's a good writer. If you liked Arrival, you like that. And Interstellar. Have you seen Tenet and some of his other stuff? Christopher Nolan's stuff.
Mhm,
I mean,
mhm.
he's our Kubrick, basically, straight up Stanley Kubrick.
Yes.
So it's like, we'll be unpacking his shit for a while, probably, because I'm like, it's like Daft Punk, where I'm like, they're Freemason fucking time travelers, clearly, or whatever's going on, and they're giving us little seed packets. But I
Yeah.
don't know if you're into Daft Punk, but Interstellar 5555, it's
Yes.
crazy stuff.
Trying to describe the interdimensional nature of our reality is difficult. And to do it in a way that opens up someone's mind is truly an art because there's so many people that just don't even believe that there's any 3D reality. and including the other direction, like toward the 2D world is a world, that the 1D world is a world, that 0 point is a place in time and space. And what I want to massage into people is the idea that we simultaneously exist on every dimensional level, and that time is our, from our perspective only, that it is actually just stretched out eternal moment. And it's hard to get your head around that. And so I love movies like Cloud Atlas that help describe
Articulate it.
how could you have simultaneous parallel experiences. And in Interstellar, the way he's in the fifth dimensional world, but he's got to communicate to his daughter through the bookcase,
Tesseract.
through the watch, and the hands on the watch are coming through the fifth dimension as these big blades of, reality splitting, dividing, just the way that something can be projected into another dimension and look totally different than it does in our dimension, and how it's connected. That was the coolest, visualization of that. And it's these people with the sci-fi and the imagination that I'm calling to with the Sonosphere, because I want to activate those people who love
Shout
Star
out Christopher Nolan. Get in a Sonosphere right now, bro.
Yes.
Whatever.
And
Honestly, you should send a little video to these people's like PR dudes and be like, look, I respect you. I'm a scientist. I've got a little thing. If you don't want to do it, I'll fucking do it for you, girl. It's like,
I went through like emailing all these people like Lady Gaga about the song. They never reply. It's like, I've just given up. It's whatever.
I wouldn't go to Lady Gaga. I mean, you do what you want. Christopher Nolan might be interested. Think about it. I mean, we'll talk about this. We'll geek.
But like, I'm looking for the next rabbit hole, so to speak. The next sign of what to do next. But it is I'm always looking for who's involved in the unfolding of this, because it's not just me.
The royal we.
This
is
has
become a tidal wave of the collective. But there's I hear what you mean. There's nodal points that have access to funds and push them along.
And it's beyond me at this point. It's like it's bigger than my whole existence at this point. So
think about it this way: your North Node in Cancer, you're birthing this. You are gonna birth things. I mean, in a weird way.
I know. I'm just wondering what I'll see before I die, and then I don't know.
On that, you're gonna be in the fifth dimension, looking down through the tesseract, going, "I did that shit. That's my sticky note," or whatever.
I know. And yeah, so I want the the imagination and the sci-fi is part of what activates the strong placebo too, because besides having a clinical therapeutic offering, there's also a very strong placebo, of course, because that comes along with everything that's healing in any way. We have to believe in its effectiveness for it to work. There's a certain element of that. And when in Washington we have a lot of like tech workers, we've got a lot of video game workers, even Wizards of the Coast,
Microsoft, all that.
Wizards of the Coast is here. All the gaming companies are here, and so we have a lot of like high fantasy oriented individuals with really bad backs that are in pain and chronic pain, and they've seen it all, done it all. So this is for them. This is for the people who just tried everything and are over it. And for people that want, like you said earlier, a therapeutic thing that's also like an entertaining thing. It's like we don't usually see these mixed together. People are confused. That I get so many, oh my gosh, I get so many crazy comments and messages, you guys, that I'm just like,
what are some of any highlights on the tip of your tongue where you're like, they think I'm a Pleiadian or whatever? Like what is some of the stuff?
Like some people are fully like, the blue avians are the ones responsible for this, and by the way, I'm gonna build it too, and you get to tell me how to do it, and like commanding me to tell them stuff. There's those people, and then there's been the one I really piss off just like elder scientist guys, usually
old like, paradigm thinking.
Yeah, like they're
like, I don't see how this is even real. Fuck you.
They call me a snake oil salesperson, and they tell me I'm a scam, and I'm like, because they tell me I don't have any math, and I'm like, oh well, what math do you want to see? Claim are you talking about? what claim, and they're like, well, you're claiming to heal this disease, or what. I'm like, no, I didn't actually, just somebody in the comments claimed that, like, and it's just, it's
Gotta
a
be
whole ball of
frustrating.
wax. It's a whole ball of
Yeah.
wax. We're very careful to not make specific claims. Like
No, you
we've
seem
been,
very professional, cogent. You're a sweetheart. I don't think you're trying to like fuck
I'm
people
not,
over.
I'm
It's
not
like, yeah, it seems like it was a vision you had clearly, and you
fucking,
have the heart to help and serve, basically for healing in a sense, even though you don't want
And
to
the
call yourself
beautiful
a healer.
thing with these things, it's very simple since you have this device and you built it and it's right there. Everyone can go test it out. And then, the feedback is the feedback, and that's just what it is. So I guess it's
I
explaining
wanna
itself.
I just want to give a shout out to the man that did actually physically build the Sonosphere, Rusty Oliver, who is he's the owner of Hazard Factory in Seattle. He does welding and welding classes, and he even has some special welding classes for women where it's just women, so they don't have to be insecure about learning. He's created like a healthy environment for even kids to learn welding and stuff. And he's an amazing creator, fabricator. And it's been his willingness to help me with this crazy project for at least the last 15 years. He's just someone that is always going to be part of our company, and somebody that's always going to be a hinge pin in this whole design. So yeah, Rusty Oliver in Seattle, he's a really awesome welder and fabricator.
I'll reach out to him and try to get him on. The thing that came to mind was like Johnny Tremaine and how he burned his hand or something back in some movie I saw. It's like, I would never weld. Holy shit, that's dangerous. But he makes it accessible. I know we're winding down, but I did have a few questions. Like, what are your thoughts? I mean, how would I put it? If people want to know how this stuff works, I don't know if you do chakra chanting and stuff. Like, you can feel in your body. I mean, someone might say do a certain tone, but it's like whenever I'm tripping, definitely, but sober too, you can just be like, "Woo." I mean, even when you blast off on DMT, you hear this kind of tonal stuff.
There's
Search your own
definitely,
body with. Go ahead.
yes, there's definitely tones happening that will resonate with you, that will open up your chakras, for lack of a better term. We're basically talking about the energetics of our insides.
Yeah.
The heart has its own energetics and its own electromagnetism. The guts, all of our brain. The throat is a tube instrument with a literal instrument in here that makes us talk. Like the chakras are like, I have a totally like scientific breakdown of like why chakras are really real.
Oh,
But
they are.
I won't go into
We
that.
don't
But
have to
like,
go quite yet. You want to talk? I was like, okay, we're gonna have a round two probably, and get your husband on here too.
but just
All right. So I just want to
that
go
chakras
ahead.
are real, so I can like start from that point to talk about them even. Because I used to have a chakra system on the Sonosphere with crystals and everything. And a lot of the people are like, "Oh, you took the crystals off. So does it still do the chakra?" I'm like, "Yeah, because it never needed those. It was always about the sound and realigning your body to be rebalanced with yourself. It doesn't You don't have to have before that was like my visual component to like, because
Bells
I
and whistles.
that was the
Yeah.
concept that I was trying to enact. But then
Yeah.
once I actually got it, I could take away the concept part because the real thing was there.
Mhm.
Um, so it does affect your chakra. And when I'm on there, toning with it really does help me go deeper into the experience. And other of our clients have also done toning at the same time. But
I
like
don't know if
again,
it's an astrologically based thing, but toning works. That's why I brought it up at all. It's like if people are skeptical of this, go do it on your own self with just your own frequency range and explore thyself, know thyself. That's the whole point. And one little other point, I guess, because I've just finished some books. I mean, I'm not an atheist. I'm pretty agnostic right now, but it was basically like, everything is math. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think of it that way. But what we're getting into is there is structures. I mean, we are structures that have dynamical relationships that can be mapped and hacked. And that's what she is doing. I mean, it's not magic in that sense. I mean, it's very practical in the sense that it's like, this is, if for those with eyes to see, it's like you can predict weather if you understand cloud formation and like jet streams and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like that a little. So I'm happy that you're more mystically, you're open to it. Like you've had psychedelics, you're open to that stuff, so it's cool. But you're not just so woo like that it's unpalatable. It's like you could talk to kind of both sides of the aisle or whatever. It's like, hey hippies, the future is here, Age of Aquarius is here, and then to the scientists, like, guys, like this is just the next development of human awareness and our embeddedness in the matrix dream, whatever you want to call this thing. I mean, there's practical
And they just
elements
get
to
mad
it.
because they're like, you didn't think of this. This has like been done before. Like, oh yeah, it's totally been done before. Like, go do it then. Like, leave me alone. I'm just doing the next version of this. Like, and no, by the way, nobody's done one this powerful or based on a freaking circle. That's why I could patent it, because it's patentable.
Unique.
So
It's unique. Well, it
yeah,
reminds me a little, I think in Crete or somewhere like that, they have like a little cave where if you go in and talk or hum or whatever, it's like like it's not they did, I don't know. Anyway, these things happen. Humans have done this. This is maybe how the pyramids were built, quote unquote, like moving things with sound or whatever. We don't know a whole lot, but you're on the cutting edge of the moment, and we're climbing out of this like 1950s, like everyone have a microwave dinner kind of mode. And
yeah.
it's like we need to
Time for
be
it's 2024 and I'm over it personally. I want something new and different, and this thing might turn into a whole other like part of tech, like to discover, like there have been experiments with like exploding cancer cells with radio frequencies, for example. That has been an experiment that people are trying to nail. That someone is going to nail that and figure out how to do it without hurting the other cells around it. Just like, maybe after I die, my my spatial harmonic theories are gonna like turn into a whole arm of science. Like, who knows after I go? This could just be like the seed of the beginning. Like, I don't know, but I just know that like the materials were here for this, and the only reason that nobody did it yet was because it was hard and it was expensive. It was expensive, and if it wasn't for all of the random help that I got from spirit, from the universe, because I definitely there were definitely times I was living in my car or living in a very poor situation. Like, if that's your case, like, don't ever think that you're limited by that, because when you are in alignment with the greater good, you get that divine luck, you get the divine blessings and luck that help you do something, just because you're fully dedicated to it. When and it's better, the greater good, that's how you're gonna be on track to make it for real.
That is what's up. Well, I think we can start. It's kind of glitched out on my end. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But Raphael's laughing. He's like, "Well, we're not in the Sonosphere right now, I guess." But we, if there's anything we haven't talked about that you want to, I mean, you're dope. I mean, if I'm ever in Washington, I'm obviously going to swing through.
Yes.
But if there's anything that we didn't address that you want to, obviously do so now. We can start kind of like really kind of winding down, and then we'll parting thoughts or whatever.
Yeah.
I know, big ask. It's like,
I
hey,
guess
sum it up.
I want people to try the Sonosphere. That's basically it. And if you want to meet me, come try it, and I will.
Simple as that, y'all.
I'm just drawing all the people to me that want to be involved right now. This is like literally the pinnacle moment.
Embryonic stages.
Yeah, where something's really big is about to happen. So, if you're attracted to work, reach out to me.
I've been fucking attracted to work with y'all. I'm like, are you going to have degrees in this? How does this work? This seems like the way forward. I mean, headphones are cool and music's great, but it's like, if you can heal at the same time and actually, move forward as a biological entity in the dream space, that's dope. There's some things we didn't touch on because I had said Grant Morrison, I just listened to, and he was talking about crazy alien experiences, talking about what our nature and time is. We don't have to go into that, but you kind of get what's up. It's like, this is just a slices of experience to go through. And then even this guy named Morg, who's kind of
I know Morg.
He's okay, I was gonna say he's kind of an edgelord, but I read his book recently, and I can't, like, I'm in this weird headspace where I'm like, I should talk to you about it. You're mathematically minded. I'm like, I think I understand the Tao, but I don't understand it. I mean, I'm not a mathematician. I'm like, I think this makes sense, but I'm not mad at humans trying their games with culture. Like I understand we're trying the best. Anyway, if you know about that, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm
There
rambling.
is
I get so excited. Go ahead.
there is some math that goes with the Sonosphere and how it works, and we are developing our own resonance equation because in physics there's a different resonance equation for each different system where resonance occurs, and there can be electrical resonance in a circuit, the balance between capacitance and voltage in a circuit, that when that's balanced special, you get this special resonance current. They use that in radio all the time. And then you have resonance of like an instrument, like a clarinet. You have resonance of a wine glass with water in it. Any system where there's resonance is a uniquely defined system. And the Sonosphere definitely has an equation that rules its resonance with and without people. And to be honest, it's a linear relationship, and it's not that deep. Like if somebody wants the equation, they can have it, but it's not going to do them any good because it only works on the Sonosphere. And this is the same for anything. This is for all the equations you have in your physics books. They all were developed by working with a specific setup within a confined boundary and a repeatable experiment over and over. You can get a sense for how things work, but you're not going to be able to apply every equation to everything else. And that's part of being a physicist, is you have to decide which equations can I apply to what situations, and where will they not work, and where can I ignore variables, and where can I have to definitely apply those variables. And that's a science and an art in and of itself. And so yes, there's an equation, but like this is not going to be taken somewhere else and worshipped, because it just describes what we already know is happening. It just describes what we're already experiencing. So that's fine. And like, yes, it will be written down. It's fine. Everyone can chill. But it's like what we're experiencing and what the people are experiencing is more important right now. That's what I feel. What it's doing is the kicker. So
Praxis. It's like it's actually doing something, so the details can be filled in later. I understand, there's going to be Virgo Capricorn types are like, tell me exactly what's going on, blah, blah, blah. But whatever, it takes all kinds. Something I do on the end of these episodes, I actually reached out to Yogi Tea, and they're like, we don't do podcasts. I'm like, fuck, I love you guys and I love their tea, and I don't need a sponsor necessarily, but it's like, I guess I won't talk to y'all. But I drink tea, right? Everybody drinks tea probably, and they have these little quotes on them, and I love them. And today's quote, and it's always like sinky, like the card at the beginning. I mean, for fuck's sake, girl, like it was the alien card. This is one of the more alien. It's like, information from beyond, or whatever was the whole card. It's like, you got a vision from beyond. It says the world needs your unique gifts. Don't leave them still inside of you, or don't leave with them still inside of you. And I think that is honestly one of your main points. It's like, whether it's Burning Man or schools saying, fuck you didn't get the credits, or whatever, you pushed through. You should be proud of yourself. And I'm excited to see what you're up to. So thank you so much, Louisa, for coming on. You're dope. Your team rabbit hole as fuck, clearly.
thanks,
And
guys.
yeah, it'll be so cool. It's like Walt Disney. You'll never know where the impact of your stuff is going to go, but it's getting birthed. So here it comes. Raphael, any thoughts?
It looks amazing. I already forwarded the link to some of my, frequency healer, not healer again, this word, frequency attuned friends.
Frequency
Exactly. Yeah, yes, frequency attuned friends. And yeah, this is like from a science fiction movie, and about time. So thank you for,
We found the time machine, Raphael. We found it.
Your diligence and so on. This looks amazing, and I look forward, everyone who's got some extra cash or something, or some good idea for healing center, which usually, can be big and glamorous. Of course, you need at least one of these, I'd say. So
yes,
thank you so much for all your dedication.
Thanks. I just want to add one more thing, which is that our session, we do have our booking and prices and all that, but we also have sliding scale. So if you want to try this Sonosphere, money is never going to be a reason why you can try it. We love energy exchange, but you just need to message me, and we'll figure out that we give lots of donation days or free sessions all the time. Those who can afford it gladly pay, and those who can't, we gladly hook them up. So that's a tenet of our business, by the way. Every time a location is good, they're going to be agreeing to having something available. scale, donation based.
Just because that
You
was
talk to me.
Coffee City, that was worse than fucking the ocean. Basically, she said, guys, money isn't an object. Talk to her. Reach out. Yeah. When you hear this back, if you do, you're gonna be like, that was contact. We didn't know what they were saying. What was going on? It's all good though. The point is, guys, her heart is in it. She's here to heal the world. She doesn't want to be called a healer because she's an Aquarius and she gets all weird with feelings. But the point is, she's helping the world. So own it. Thank you so much for your time and energy. And guys,
Thanks, you
find
guys.
the others.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thanks everyone for joining.
Seeing me, you guys. Have a great day.